Optimum Performance Method Studio, Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey. Back with Bucc's Breakdowns. This is Ryan Buccafurni at Peak Performance Inspection Rehab, and back with another edition. Last week we got into some depth on some stuff with things that you have going on, and at the new facility, and that's pretty exciting because we went by there and checked it out. It's awesome, state of the art. I mean, I saw them post something up about BPC and you guys together, and it said something like often duplicated or often imitated, never duplicated.
Sure.
Right? And I think that's pretty cool. Something that I've seen my own business go through, where people have tried to do it, they thought it was cool, and then you got to do it right. You got to do it right from the ground floors, and then you can see all the holes in other people's games when they try to do this for a gimmick and not use the results as the basis, right? So we're going to use results not because it's cool or because it's fun looking. You get a great result. And Ryan, this is your show, man. But I do want to kind of structure you a little bit on some of them. I want you to go into the features, the first features of the new facility, not the programs, but the actual physical features.
Yeah, so it's an 11,000 square foot building, I believe, just about. It's about 7,000 or 6,500 square feet of turf with 3 mounds, 3 batting cages, a plyo wall, and there's a mezzanine up top where you can oversee, like if there's live at bats going on, or for scout day, for like when we have pro day and there's 30 scouts there, they'll be able to actually be up top looking down, watching the track man and watching the radar gun. So it's a hype environment, and the place is going to be set up to like make it even more hype. There's going to be a 2,000 square foot performance weight room, so 4 squat racks, 4 or 5 benches, full dumbbell set, kettlebell set, sleds. Not an area where we're going to do speed. That's definitely not our specialty, and that's where we're going to send over to Dave to help with that. But an area to do like strength and conditioning for sport specifics, and we'll get into like the different programs we're going to run. But it's set up good. It's set up like set up like a college weight room, and we want that like culture, and we want that environment there where it's going to be pretty badass, and there's going to be some intensity going on. And then we're going to have like a 1,800 or so square foot physical therapy office with top of the line stuff, blood flow restriction therapy, dry needling. We're going to have the Proteus in there, which we talked about last week, which is going to measure our rotational, our ability to rotate for our athletes, their speed and strength. So it's going to be pretty sick. We're trying to cover every basis that we can. Again, minus the speed and explosion, which we use. My man Dave's the best in the business, so we're going to be able to kind of hit every category that an athlete needs. And the plan, even from that standpoint, is I plan on bringing Prevail Nutrition in to give the athletes options for nutrition and have easy options for good, healthy food. Because we know if you work out hard and you're not fueling your body right, what the hell's the point? So, right? Like, so we're trying to encompass everything.
Even we talked about if the other side of the building is available, we'll buy it and then move over there or whatever.
Be awesome.
But yeah, I mean, that seems like it's where it's going right now.
Sure.
But I mean, yeah, it's exciting. The facility, we went over there and took a walk. I rarely get jealous of other people's stuff, and I got a little bit jealous. I'm like, gosh, first you guys working that closely together, and then the hype environment that is created through BPC. I remember you telling me a long time ago, these guys are so good at social media, and they're so good at the environment
Cultures.
They created. It's very cool.
It's like testosterone city. When the guys are throwing bullpens, I mean, there's 30, 40 other guys watching, and so it just creates that competitive atmosphere where, they're rooting for each other, but it drives the other guy to do better, and it's just fun. It's a fun place to be around, and I think it just brings the best out of athletes, right? Yeah. It brings the best out of me as a therapist because I go to work, man. I'm excited. Like, makes me want to go train and try to play again or something.
Yeah. The one thing about you guys and BPC and us, it's neat that we've not left the area. When everybody tells you got to go to Marlton, you got to go to Cherry Hill, take that up there, you're going to kill it, go here, and we haven't moved. Yeah. And we're like,
there's not a market for it, right.
This isn't the
People
market.
People won't pay. There's not
No. And so what happens? Everybody comes down to us. Yeah. That's what's going on. It's like, and if we did move, we would have gone. We would have done it. You've gone away from our hometowns.
Sure.
We're trying to represent, be hometown people here as well. I think that's so cool, and I'm proud of all those guys. You and even myself for not going to where everyone tells you to go. But so let's go into the programs in there, not the physical stuff, but the programs. And we just sent home an email about our weights programming, how we're gonna how we integrate, and it's important that we know what focus is. For people that are doing a program within,
sure,
like while they're training here, that the trainer knows exactly what we're doing, so they can coincide or they can go side by side and work those, so it doesn't overlap too much. Because you can get super sore from doing something here, and then you don't want to overstimulate here. So that's why working with Ryan is very cohesive with us. And then you also will have an introductory program for just basically like that 6th to 8th grade that needs to know how to use the weight room. And maybe you could tell us a little about your coach too for the weights program.
So the programming we're still working on, but I'll give you a little bit. We're looking at a youth group, like Dave said, 6th to 8th graders, teaching them basic lifts, getting them in the weight room, getting them comfortable with the weight room. Functional training too, but also getting them used to the barbells and things they're going to see when they're in high school. And again, just getting their feet wet and getting them confident and making sure they're safe. Right, that's huge. For our athletes, we have individualized gym memberships with programming. So everybody's going to get assessed from a physical therapy. Everybody's going to get assessed by our strength coach, Donnie Stone, who's the man, and I'll talk about later if we have time, and Proteus assessed. So now after we have our assessment, they're going to get an individualized program, basically 6-week program that will get reevaluated every 6 weeks and then progressed. That's for like our high school age athletes. Our college athletes and pros will have an option for individualized programming and assessments, but we're also going to allow them some open gym space time, because a lot of the pros that come down have the programs they have to do by their by the organization they're with. So we're going to allow them, obviously, freedom. We're not going to tell them you have to follow what Bucc says, but we're going to definitely give our insight to help them, maybe tweak their program a little more individualized. Because a lot of these pro orgs, like we talked about last week, it's pretty. Their strength and conditioning programs are pretty generic, right? And we're going to be able to put some tweaks on them, but still let them get their work in. We're going to do an ACL club for the female athletes. I know talking to a lot of the Rothman Institute docs, and like just the epidemic of ACL tears in young female athletes, we're going to try 2 times a week doing ACL prevention training, which is a combination of lower leg strengthening, but also neuromuscular control exercises, teaching females how to land, and just, again, the best way to move, trying to limit their exposure to ACL tears. And I think that's the majority of what we're doing. We're going to have some one-on-one options, some small group arm care options, hip mobility options for guys that want to get real specific or have needs that they're, they really want to focus on.
And I want to just interject here with this one thing on the weights program. And this is why it's so important that you 6th to 8th graders, that's the biggest market for the weight room. And this is something you're not even going to mention, but it's super important. When you go to a high school weight room, you'll remember this. Sure. There's like 2 benches, 2 squat racks, and 100 kids in the weight room, right? So true. So you're going to go, you get dropped off, and you're waiting around for a squat rack. You never get to go and do anything but stand there and watch everybody else do it. And then you call your mom from the payphone, we used to, and then you go, hey, can you pick me up now? The time's up for our weights training. And you're going, they literally didn't lift weights until their senior year. Right. And then you're like, so that happens. And then if you knew what you were doing when you got there, and you could actually put some weight on the bar, you can work in with guys.
Absolutely.
But if you don't know how to do it, your coach is going to go, get out of here. And you're just going to stand there and pretend.
Absolutely.
So this program to me is, done by your people under your supervision, is the most important thing. It's you can get hurt doing it. So under the supervision of a physical therapist that does just athletes, this is why we want to work our program with you guys, because it's the most important thing, and you're not wasting your time. Now, if you can get permission, now this is something that's been happening more often because the coaches are starting to see how this works. We're getting permission from coaches to skip weight room with them and go into a program somewhere else, but you have to sign a paperwork and say you've been there. So I've been doing that with some of my students, some of the swimmers who have to go in real early. They'll get permission by doing weights or performance at our place. So that's kind of another thing that will be an option as well. It can happen at any of these, especially the private schools, but some of the public schools will allow it too.
Sure.
So anyway, that program's super duper important. Remember, that's something you don't even think about. You're just thinking about all these, okay, do we get stronger? what about wasting your time for 3 years?
And think of 3 years, like if you do twice a week for 3 years, how many lifts you have under your belt by the time you're getting your first, you're in the weight room at Holy Spirit or Mainland doing your max day as a freshman, and you have 60 lifts under your belt versus the kid next to you that's went to Wolf Fitness and tried to lift once with his dad or something. You know what I mean? Just that experience, that confidence. Again, your movement patterns are already going to be cleaner. You're just setting yourself up to succeed, and that's kind of our goal. And be safe, right? Like everything always comes down to safety first. So.
Yeah, and no matter what, whoever we're speaking to, if you're a proactive person, this is a proactive program. It's very affordable too. I threw out a number that was way higher than what you sent me. Just I assume it's like $80 a lesson. It's really not. They're packages of like $240 for 8 lessons.
We're trying to keep small groups to about 8 kids. Again, and we're learning a little bit this idea, so we'll play with it. But the idea is we want to have 1 to 2 coaches per 6 to 8 kids to make sure that we're able to like oversee and it doesn't get too crazy.
Yeah, in high school you'll have 1 volunteer coach for 50 kids in the weight room, and you're really it's very hard to supervise. You're not a coach anymore. You're just a manager, and it doesn't really work that way. So, but anyway, that's how that's kind of how we work our programming together. And again, like you said, you don't like to get into my world. I don't like to get into that world too. But I will say our students will come through us, and we will give them the programming here so they know not to step on our toes as far as
we'll modify.
As far as if we're doing a jump day, not to go legs that day because they're going to be so overstimulated with that. So, but anyway, and then some of the other exciting things, just within today's world that we're seeing happen is all of the athletes that are starting to use that Proteus, right? And they're starting to use some of these more measurable pieces of equipment, our Tracer and stuff.
Sure.
You're starting to see them have metrics that are changing their power versus like a blind increase in squat strength or blind increase in jump height or speed or whatever.
Right.
You're starting to have these things that integrate into actually making an athlete throw the ball faster or do better, swing the bat faster and stuff like that. So you're having these things that we have. They're very expensive, by the way.
Sure.
But they're connecting you to your sport versus like blindly thinking that it's not going to work, like that it's going to work, but it doesn't. It actually doesn't. There's a disconnect. And these things, we always say, like, these exercises, these composite scores that we use make a direct connection to how you're going to perform. And we've seen that anecdotally through, like, let's say Stephen Ordilli, who was a real strong weight room kid and everything. Like, we told him to take the year off of really going hard in the weight room. Still do your thing in the weight room, but let me put a hard focus on your performance. He actually did, and now you can see him. He was a 2,000-yard rusher this season, and that's anecdotal, and it's not as just one person, but it's somebody I've seen who took this seriously. He'll take anything seriously. You put him in the weight room, put him in the classroom, whatever. He took that, and he understood it, and it really worked for him.
I see it I have this discussion with baseball pitchers all the time, and it like mass equals gas. We talked about you want to be strong, absolutely, but there is this level of like, at what point is strong enough? And let's reshift our focus now to more performance-based, like, or more training, more specific to the sport, and making you move better, making you more explosive versus weight room strength. So I think, and you're seeing it too, like in your older high school kids, your college kids, your pros. I have the discussion all the time, like they're weight room champs, but your velocity's dropping, bro. Like what are we missing? Like I don't give a crap that you can still deadlift 450, but you're throwing 87 now. Like, probably let's reshift focus on your deadlift, and let's look at other things like how fast you move or how fast and well you rotate. So, right.
Yeah. So like that Proteus too. It's such a neat thing to have. You're probably the only person to have one around.
If you South Jersey,
if you cut off like that, maybe that up in Cherry Hill. I don't know.
I haven't even maybe in there. I don't know.
But that thing is legit. You could see Patrick Mahomes using it and believes in it, a lot. And it's one thing with training that makes a lot of sense because you're going to see you'll explain this right now. But even for me, watching people going, oh man, do you know how much that twist that is important in swing and hit and running and everything? And it's just not one of those things it's not a linear thing that you measure.
Yeah.
this is an impossible thing to measure until now.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about it last week a little bit, but if you want to go in a little bit more depth on the Proteus and kind of some of the things that it measures.
I think it's going to like measure speed versus strength as far as how you rotate. But I think the other problem sometimes with like even doing rotational training, right, is like you want to rotate well, but you want to mimic the most efficient way you rotate during sport, right? So rotating sloppy but doing a Proteus hard now you're just like compounding like a faulty movement pattern. Like you rotate well, but you're triple extending your back leg versus dropping it down into hip internal rotation, right? So we're going to be able to like video, make sure when we are like testing, we're mimicking your sport specific way you rotate and be able to catch that curve. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, versus like being a sloppy chop.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so we're like, so when we're training, we can be as specific with movement patterns and loaded movement patterns and speed movement patterns that most mimic our sport. Still, we're going to work other variations of rotation, right? Like it's not all about, not everything in the weight room should look exactly like sport. I'm not saying that, but from a testing standpoint, I think I want it to look pretty darn close to see if there's going to be then carryover into exit velo or velocity. So.
How much time does an athlete spend on the Proteus, like if that was
programming
like a part of your exercises?
So generally speaking, it would be like your first 10 minutes of like your explosive work instead of like if we'd be doing like med ball throws or something before we do our lifts, like our heavy lift. Usually you start there when you're fresh, and I'm thinking like 10 minutes. 3 to 5 exercises, depending on what we're going for, 3 to 5 reps as hard as you can. So it's not like an hour session on Proteus, but it's your usually first thing you do after your warm up as far as your explosive work, your plyometric work. We're going to program it there for the most part. Right.
And I think we're going to live show Ryan a couple features of the Trazer, which we've been talking a little about. We're going to show him that when we get that live, and I always want to see his face light up when he sees how he can use this and integrate. And this system is mobile, so we can bring it over to your place sometimes if you ever want to use it.
The ACL prevention, like those groups, I think, I mean, that's everything. Again, I'm still talking about something I am lacking is something like this. I'm still eyeballing movements, and that's not perfect. I'm just, you know what I mean?
This quantifies, measures all movement, and it's neat because it's you would think like you have to turn your body to the side to read a vector, right?
Yeah.
And then you can put it into a software and draw over it. This thing does it from the front. And it can read all the vectors from the back. It's wild because of the camera's such a high power camera. But right after, so before we go into that, I'm going to do a segment with Ryan after the interstitial here. We're going to do it. It's called the one word answer segment. All right, here we go. So we're back into a segment where it's a fast answer. We're going to go like just firing off questions and take as little or as much time you want, but this should be pretty fast. All right, all right, here we go. Best coach you ever had?
2. I got to give 2. Yogi Hiltner, Steve Herron.
Awesome. Best quote you've ever heard?
It's not about independence, it's about interdependence.
Oh, I like that. Fastest pitch you've ever seen?
I saw Chase Petty throw a 101.
Ooh. In person, I've seen him throw 100 a couple times. I never saw a 101. Best compliment you ever got? As a practitioner,
I guess. I don't know. I guess
I probably gave it to you.
Right? No, I think what like fills my bucket is when people realize how much I care. Like and my empathy, and I lose a lot of sleep over people at night because I do care so much. Like this is my passion, this is my world. So I think just that they know. Like I take this home with me. Probably my wife would wish I didn't as much, but like I strive and I feel internally if I'm not helping somebody.
Right. So. I always get the one quote they ask me to say all the time. It's a Coach Vermeil quote, but then it's an everybody quote now. Is he says people don't care what you know till they know that you care. And some of the best thing we know everything. If we don't care,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I've had some of the best clinicians. They don't care. They don't connect with people. I don't care what you know clinically.
As much as Kevin Neal was, as a great physician or physical therapist in Atlanta, Alabama, where I went, he cared just as much as anybody else, and I was always going to appreciate that about him. He knows everything, he's seen them all. He still cares about the young little guy like me. You know what I mean? Yeah. All right, worst diss you ever got?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Worst diss. Worst diss. It's got to be something with my height, man. I can't, like, I get crushed with my height and my hair.
Your brothers give it to you.
That's what I mean. Like I was Danny DeVito, Joe. We break chops, right? So who do I look like? I've been called Danny DeVito, Joe Pesci, every short little fat Italian guy, George Costanza. So something along those lines, I would say.
All right. What's your favorite thing to say? You say to motivate your athletes?
Man.
Is there a word like they would say? Oh, he's going to tell us, get off your butt. You know, what I mean, what word would they say that you would tell them?
Usually, like, the worst is over. Like, worst is over, dude. You had your surgery. The worst is over. Like, let's go. Right. Like, stop feeling bad for yourself. So I think it's usually by they see me, the surgery's over. We're on the up and up now. We're on the comeback. So the worst is over. Like, my perspective like it's only up from here. Like, let's get to work.
Awesome. All right. You look like a pretty strong guy. How much you bench?
Right now, I'm weak, man. But I've got 305 once, and right now, I don't know. I've dumbbell. I could probably still do the hundreds for a couple.
What's better, rap now or rap then?
Rap then. 90s rap to early 2000s rap.
We're listening to it right now.
100%. Not even, unfortunately, not even close.
Damo, where's he going to high school?
Right.
That one's hitting home.
Right. I'm a Holy Spirit guy. I loved Holy Spirit. I'm in Northfield now. I'm really loving what Mainland's doing with all their programs. I love the coaches over there. So I think we'll see, but I'm leaning towards Mainland for sure.
Last but not least, what is your favorite sport to coach other than baseball?
Football.
Gotcha. All right, so that's our fast answer segment right here. I'd like them just a little bit get to know a little bit about the man behind all the work and all the the glitz and the the glamour of being everybody thinks that it is at some point because the way that people talk about you, but it's a lot of hard work and behind the scenes. I know Ryan works his ever living butt off. He's a humble guy, but I want you guys to know this guy like I do, and he really truly does care so much so that it'll make him sick, upset if he doesn't get a result. Same with us. Sure. I think that's why we get this as much as we know clinically. We also care, physically, and I think that's so important to know about you.
That's why we got into it, right?
Yeah.
We got into it not to make money, we got into it because we care and we want to help people, right? I think inherently that's in us. So.
Yeah. So next thing we're gonna do is go over to the section of the Razor